in the wind, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, borderline is a sin. Ascending, word, bending verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the verses of queen. So long, you better catch a God form to sing. Dreams manifest, did you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.
Well,
Hello, cousin.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to say outstanding. How you doing?
Outstanding. I thought you were going to correct yourself and say you're doing well.
No, I can't do that. Can't do that.
Okay. Outstanding.
Because I think on our show, I always say I'm doing good.
I know you do. You do.
I have another friend that I always say outstanding because that's what my dad used to say all the time, and I don't know why. I think it's just I think as we get older, some of these bananas dadisms and momisms seem to just kind of pop up because that's what they said. And I guess Bob said they train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're older or old, and I ain't saying I'm old because Evan always calls me old, but what do we say? My mama call him Ray, so I'm gonna call him Ray. So anyway, and no, for people who've been watching us for a while, no, I ain't had no breakfast. So if this,
Lord, help us. We need another prayer.
I'm waiting already.
All right.
So, but yeah, I was going to say, yeah, we had a good time. We had a good time. And I would say outstanding because a friend of mine always says, hey, you didn't say outstanding. So, okay, so I'm outstanding. But then when I said it, that song by the Gap Band came to my mind. Outstanding. That's all.
Hey. Yes.
Don't. It's in my head now. Sorry. I'm bad.
Lord. Okay. What are we talking about today? Because we need to jump into it because you are waving flags. You are singing Gap Band. You are all the things this morning. And which probably means that you're not tired of merely existing, I think.
Can I click it? Oh, you clicked it.
Yeah. I'm tired of merely existing. So y'all, sometimes when Craig and we're just talking, we're just in conversation, we're on the phone and we're like, what's going on with you? Like kind of checking in, not necessarily in a strategy session. These things come up in conversation. We're like, ooh. And so we'll spend probably an hour talking about it. We're like, dang, we should have recorded that. So this is one of those moments where it was truly a full circle opportunity. We plan in advance on what we want to talk because we want to bring you the authenticity of ourselves, which means that we want to know where we're going in the conversation, but we don't script ourselves at all. And so as we were preparing for today's show, and we were reminded of the topic and going through some things, Craig was like, I have the perfect example for this. And so what we're really talking about is sometimes we know or we believe that something is possible, but we start doubting and then we start backtracking and then we go, dang, but if I would have just, or if I would have done, and sometimes there's some regret with the things that we haven't done that we know we should be doing. And that brings this weight on us around, well, when is the next thing going to come? When are we going to get that big, financial payout? When are we going to get that next window open or what have you? So that's what we're talking about today. And just stop it. Just stop thinking that we're only existing for the pain, right? For the disappointment. So go ahead.
So I appreciate the intro, and I'm just so bananas and wired. I've been up. Well, people say, "Oh, you've been up for a long time." No, I've actually been up a long time, but from the jump this morning, it has been nonstop. And a good friend of mine is a music producer, and he asked me to manage him. Probably almost a year ago, but I don't think it's been that long. But time flies when you really don't try. And so I told him reluctantly. I told him, yeah, but I never thought it was really going to come to mind. So in my mind, I'd already tried to close that door in the doubt because I'm thinking I'm downplaying myself and my role and my effectiveness. And I've never managed anyone. I really don't understand what needs to happen. But in every case of our lives, we really just need to listen to what the Lord is bringing to us in terms of our response to a
Mm-hmm.
situation. And if we follow him, he'll never lead us wrong. So he had received a contact from another artist today to use
Mm-hmm.
one of his tracks on their album. And he wanted me to interface and talk to that person to negotiate a deal. And so long story short is the initial ask was declined. They decided, oh, we're just going to pass, no big deal, with no explanation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Felt led to respond to the person to negotiate and say, yes, what about the ask is wrong? Not closing the door and just allowing that, oh, we're going to pass with no explanation, be our existence to
Right,
merely,
right, right, right.
because I don't know about y'all who are listening, but I'm tired of having it be that way. I've
Mm-hmm.
lived in that way for probably the better part of 11 years, where
Mm-hmm.
I've just been excited about being able to have the breath was just using,
Mm-hmm.
and not not really caring if the next one was better. If that
Mm.
makes any sense. So some of you want
Okay.
to live in a room that stinks, in a room that's nasty, in a room that doesn't smell or taste well. You just are happy to be there. I lived that way, where I thought
Mm-hmm.
our whole life had come to an end. And so I'm tired of living that way. And I began to do things in my life to change that. So as a part of this, when going back and forth with this artist, they explained why they wanted to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to then continue to negotiate and come back and forth to find a place where my friend, the producer, was excited about the accepting a position or accepting the place for his music. And the
Mm-hmm.
artist was excited about that same acceptance. And so what
Nice.
has wound up being the case is now the producer is able to be a part of the creative process, which he would not have
Mm-hmm.
been able to prior. And now that opens the door to him to be able to potentially at least have a conversation with other things that are going on, other aspects of the album that's being built on a national level record label.
Yeah.
But if we had taken the no and existed with that only, without
Yeah.
asking a question, like most Kirk say, someone ask a question. Why did you give me no? So if we didn't do that, he wouldn't be where he is now, where the song was accepted, was picked up, and will be on an upcoming album release. And so we'll definitely be able to have that further as things are, official and things are released. Then we'll be able to maybe even play the song and play the videos on our show because of the yes, because we didn't
Mm-hmm.
close the door on ourselves. So I encourage everyone to please stop closing a door before the door even opens,
Yeah.
and we'll be so much better.
Yeah, that's it's a powerful moment for many reasons. One is, like you said, we talked about not closing those doors or not doubting ourselves before we even get it. And sometimes that's hard because maybe in like episode one, season one, we were talking about, we're paving this path, and sometimes it's a not only is it a path less traveled, to be on your own in business and having to learn how to create contracts and have these conversations and advocate for yourself.
Sure.
Sometimes it's a path you've never seen done before either. So it's like the blind leading the blind in some ways. And I say that in the most respectful and humble way, meaning we just don't have the physical resemblance of how this is done and how it's done well. And the people that are doing it well in LA or wherever they live, these
Mhm.
multimillionaires or, who are doing similar things to what we're doing, we don't have access to those people. And
Right.
and that went on a bunny trail in my head for a minute. I want to be kind. Sometimes we don't need to be connected with certain people, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know what I just saw?
What's that?
This. Watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth. Watch out, Ernest.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll go back. We must understand. This is the point that I really wanted to make. That in not understanding that the process is necessary, meaning sometimes we're going to be denied, sometimes it's going to be a yes. At the end of the day, we're delaying our own promise because we know what we're supposed to be doing. And sometimes that fear that rises up and cripples us wants us to go and negotiate something that was never meant to be negotiated, meaning a relationship we shouldn't have been in for that particular season. Or it's we're cutting our own, what's it saying? You're cutting your nose off to spite your face.
Yep.
Right. And so we're discounting ourselves. And then people go, "Ooh, there's an open door. There's a way for me to get something," especially manipulative people. And I know I tend to talk about that a lot because it's hard out here. It's hard out here. And so sometimes we want to see the best in people. And a lot of times people are good, but they may not be good for us in this particular season. So we have to be aware of the process of cutting, of shedding, of growing, of planting, of watering, all of those things in effort to get to what we know is the promise that we're supposed to be standing on.
Like you said, I got two things.
What?
Yeah, this one came to mind right away. People are good, but some are not good for us.
Yes. Yes.
And in doing things for people, because a lot of us are givers or caregivers, or just we want everybody to win. Some folks don't want to. The optimist side, the giver side of me wants to believe that there's only a small percentage of people out there who really don't want others to win but themselves.
Yes.
There may be a larger percentage out there because that I just don't want to know about. But whoever the Lord is putting in my path to work with us, like we've even talked in our previous episode about sometimes how long people are in our lives, and we need to cut toxic people out of our lives sooner. But as the Lord is showing us who to work with, those are the people that we're going to be able to trust and work with. And then we've got to pay attention to the season, the length of time. It may be one project. It may be one conversation. It may be their lifetime or our lifetime. We don't know, or somewhere in between. And
Yeah.
we've got to be excited about that and not be so caught up in, oh, I lost my relationship. Well, no, that relationship did exactly what it was already ordained and meant to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, it may have felt like, or may have been like, a person did something to cut it off and stop it sooner, but we can't worry about that. We have got to follow the Lord, and no matter where He takes us on our plan that He has for our life, because it's His plan for our life. It's not our plan for our life. And the second thing that came to mind when you were talking, we need to stop closing doors before there's a door, and that's supposed to be an apostrophe, not a period. So I apologize. We on live recording, so I'll go back clean that up later. But we got to be able to do that, because if we close the door before this there, it's like you said, we're trailblazing things for so long, and there's not even a road in some cases. A lot of us are out here with long machetes cutting through the brush, trying to step through weed. Thank you so much. Weeds and trees and tall thickets, trying to get the next step, trying to grind through, and we're getting cut and torn and bruised. On our clothes are getting ripped in shreds, and we've got open sores from the day before and the trip before from last week that are getting reopened. We've got blisters on our hands, and we're upset and frustrated because it may have taken us hours or days in some cases to get 20 feet through that thicket, right? But for the person coming behind us, maybe it doesn't take them 2 days. Maybe it takes them a day. Maybe eventually there'll be a path. Eventually there may be a sidewalk. Eventually there'll be a road that maybe one car can go both ways, and then two cars. And we just can't give up on our fellowship of the Lord's process.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're talking about the path and the journey to get where we're going, because as in the last few weeks, in a few episodes ago, I shared about my identity theft and all of that. And so what was downloaded to me was this process of how I was going to get through that, right? And what were the steps that I needed to do, not just the legal steps of filing a police report, contacting the state, getting my bank account, all of those things. But I was shown a process, and it's called, the acronym is LAB. So listen, it's accept and align as the A, and then the B is behave. and behave as though you're already out, behave as though you already, are where you're supposed to be. This blessing that we're waiting for is already here.
Mhm.
And so I shared that on someone else's platform at a women's retreat in another state last year. And I knew it was powerful because of the way that it hit me. And it resonated with so many women, like thousands of women who were in attendance, whether in person or online, and how it continues to be shared. I knew it was impactful. I'm going somewhere. And so the lady that invited me, the host of that particular conference, called me several months later and said, "Hey, I want to interview you about identity theft. We're doing a series." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And like inside, I was like, there were some questions around within myself, like, I know I can trust this person, but then I started feeling weird, like how is this gonna what is I understand that the message is the benefit to her and to her platform, but how does that necessarily benefit me, or what should I be doing differently? Or this is my own message, this is my own experience, right? So
Sure.
it caused me to think. And then a couple before that interview came about, my pastor had asked, could I speak in his absence? And I'm like, oh Lord, this is getting to be a bit much. And all of this message came back to me around lab and being intentional, and what the purpose of this really was for my life was to create relevance. I know this is a long story, but just follow me for a moment. What came to me in the middle of the night after this incident happened, talked about it on this platform, was asked to speak, the same message came up, was asked to be interviewed, was that sometimes when we're talking about merely existing, it's because we're not willing to take the next step to do what is necessary to get to where we are relevant, to get to, and that was me. I didn't realize it, but I was concerned about what these other people were going to do with it. And it's like, well, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to use your experiences? How are you going to take this thing that clearly there's value? Clearly, other people are seeing the value and the worth in their lives, but I'm merely existing and I'm talking about what's next. Well, that's what's next. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I think we have to realize that when these things come to us, or when these opportunities or these doors are open, we have to be willing to walk through it. If not, then we're thwarting our own promise and our own plan, and delaying it because we don't understand that those steps are part of the process to get us where we're supposed to be.
So the Lord just gave me this vision of what would have happened to anyone or all of the children of Israel had they not, for one, well, let me change, not edit the vision. It was, what would have happened to one or any one of them had they not crossed over the Red Sea after it
Mm-hmm,
was split for them.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So you can imagine they'd come all that way. The water was split, the ground was dried. The Lord had
mm-hmm.
prepped everything. All they had to do was walk through that door.
Yes.
If they didn't, they'd have been killed. That army would have annihilated every last one of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us out there are them, because even the Bible says that none of the children of Israel were lost in that
Yeah.
process. Not in
Yes.
that process, right? Now
Yes.
there was some people that didn't see the promised land. That's different. But we're talking
That
about
is
the
different.
crossing the Red Sea story.
Because we're talking about a phase. We're talking about a
Correct.
process. Can you
Correct.
trust me in this? Because if you can trust me in this, you can trust me in that. Oh, but I can trust you in this, but I can't trust you in that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So there's so many times when the Lord will open a door for us. And in our case, there may not be any armies chasing us.
Yeah.
Right. And I think for some of us, I think we need some armies to be chasing us to make us
Mm,
actually motivated. Because a
mhm,
bill collector is an army. The rent and the mortgage, that's an army. The electric bill is an army. The
mhm.
car insurance and the car payment and the car repair, those are armies that are chasing you down, in some cases daily.
Yeah.
And we need to be walking through these open doors, these Red Sea moments that the Lord brings, because we have these conversations, or maybe some of us are silly like me. Well, cancel the word silly. Or maybe some people are like me, where you have these ongoing conversations with God all day long. People say, I was just talking to myself today. You're talking to yourself.
Yeah.
How are we going to talk to ourselves and God answer? I'm sorry. Anyway, so we say
Ooh.
something genuinely honest
Mm-hmm.
and fearless before the Lord, right?
Yeah.
And the Lord can only hear the love and the honesty. He can't hear the fear and the doubt. So it's just like when the lady touched Jesus' cloak, the edge of his garment, when he was walking in the woman
Mm-hmm.
with the issue of blood,
Issue
and
of blood.
Jesus said, "Who touched me?
Right.
Power went from me."
Yeah.
Right. So my silly mind, I can just imagine God sitting around, standing around, having whatever he doing, and he look. Oh, somebody asked for something. Oh yeah, Craig asked for that. Okay, here you go.
Yes.
Oh, Cheryl asked for this. Boop. Mary and Linda, Fred asked for this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sincerely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then sometimes it takes a minute to get here because in
Yes.
transit, I may have reconsidered my ask and thought, oh, that was too big for God to answer.
Mm.
Okay. And then we release
Mm-hmm.
demons out to stop the blessing.
Mm.
So like the Bible story, the Prince of Persia talk about, that story was the angel was dispatched with the solution, with the answer,
Mm-hmm.
with the help.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me so many days to get here because I was wrestling with the folks that you let loose on me.
Yeah.
So by the
Yeah.
time he got done defeating those delays, sometimes our delay is 15 years, 30 years, 40 years.
Yes.
Some folk waiting longer, to be truthful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if we realize that we would stay truthful on the ask
Mm-hmm.
and stay truthful on the wait during
Yeah.
the process that you mentioned,
Yeah. Mind blown.
that means that we can't really increase or speed up God's hand like you mentioned in answering a blessing for us. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, we sure can delay it.
Yep.
We need to just shorten that delay.
Yes. Absolutely. And the way we do this, we didn't know how this was going to come up sincerely. I was using it earlier, but we have to watch what we say.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
if the power of life and death is in our tongue, and we're fearless enough and courageous enough to speak truth, that's the other
Yeah.
thing. We don't speak truth. We're not honest in our dealings with ourselves, and because we're afraid of sometimes of what people are going to say or people are going to do. I'm that's for the birds. That's where we're merely existing, is where we're so concerned about what other people have to say or what they're doing that we're missing out on what we're supposed to be doing and moving, making moves in that direction. And so we start, like you said, we start with, okay, I'm asking for this thing. And I don't think we ask big enough. I think we still think that there's a part of us that's in control of what happens with our lives. Therefore, it's like, well, what can I do? And that's not how we're supposed to believe. We're supposed to believe that anything is possible for those who believe that the creator of all is able to supply all of those needs according to his riches, not my riches. And so we get stuck in our own ability, we get stuck in our own capacity, we get stuck in our own way, and we start doubting, and then we start speaking the doubt, which is further delaying the plan. When I think about, and it's a sad moment when I think about sometimes, how much further along I could be if I would have blank, I can't stay there too long, right? I can't, because that creates a unnecessary um, mm, an unnecessary anxiousness that
Mm.
I can't do anything with, right? If I'm constantly thinking about what I had in the past or what I should have done in the past, I'm not present in this moment, and I'm not making moves toward what I believe I can really have. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to start speaking truth without doubt and
Yep.
without fear, and start really, really dreaming much bigger, because we're stuck in this small place.
Oh my gosh, you said something, and being about us being stuck in our ability to envision. Because
Hmm.
initially I typed dream,
Hmm.
right? But I didn't want to. I felt led to not use the word dream because there's a
Hmm.
collection of us out there that says, "Oh, if you can dream it, you can live it." And then you get another contention is stuck where there's a dream and there's a fantasy, and fantasies don't come true. But they say, "Oh, dreams do come true. It could happen to you." We're not talking about Hollywood, Disney, and all that kind of crap, right? I almost said something
Happen
else. I
to
don't want
you.
you know what I'm saying? If you can't imagine or see yourself in a situation doing what you asked for, then it's not going to happen. Because if you can't see yourself standing on platforms and stages
Yes.
talking to people that you want to talk to, or
Yes.
writing songs for other artists to sing or rap or do whatever they're going to do on,
Right.
and it's playing, if you can't see yourself, making garments and doing New York Fashion Week or LA Fashion Week or whatever
Right.
fashion
Right.
week, or if you can't even see yourself wearing your own stuff,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and
Right.
whatever it is that you wanted to do, but if you can't see it,
Yep.
then you're never going to speak it out, because what'll happen is it's in our tongue, because the Bible says life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Yes.
So when we speak about that dream or don't, it'll have the effect and result based on what we say or don't say. So if we don't
Yeah.
speak life to our dream and our desire and our want, it'll never grow. If we speak death on it, that it'll never happen, or I don't believe it, and put that and speak the fear out there,
Yep.
it'll die. But
Mm-hmm.
if we speak it out there and say, every day my business grows stronger, I get
Mm-hmm.
more clients every day. I'll get a new contract today. I'll get a new
Yep.
contract next week. I'll get another customer. I'll get another repeat order from the same customers I've
Yes.
already got. My
Mm-hmm.
products will be accepted in more places and wider known. I will get the visibility and other things you could say about your product, about you as an
Yes.
artist. It's
Yep.
good. Because that life then is spoken over that thing.
Yes.
But some of us think, "Oh, I was just thinking the other day." Yes, you're not busted by what you think.
Right.
You're only held accountable for the result of what you say.
Here's the thing too. Kind of two things. Okay, I said it. Um, we have the power to speak whatever we believe into existence. And here's the thing, you can't behave differently than you think. So there is a part of what we think that in some ways controls our actions, because if we're saying I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, but you're
Mhm.
walking around with your head down low and dragging your feet, those don't align. That
Right.
image of happiness is not showing up in your behavior, which means that you're saying something that you may not believe, and so your brain is not allowing you to behave in the way that aligns with what you're saying. So that's
Mhm.
why this acronym, you have to align and accept that what you're speaking is true. Therefore, you're forcing yourself to behave in a way that aligns to what you're saying. Part two is sometimes what we're saying, you mentioned it earlier, is that it takes some time to manifest.
Yeah.
It may take longer than you're willing, or longer than you think you should have to wait to receive whatever's on the
Mhm.
other side of your alignment and your behavior, and accepting that as the truth that you speak.
Yep.
Because there's a place in here for maturity. There's a place in here that there's no question about what was promised.
Yep.
That's over here. But are you ready for the $1 million? Are you mature enough to handle what is really for you? Are you gonna allow your character to change when you get what it is that you believe is yours? Because again, we're not questioning whether it's yours, but I will allow Caitlin, who is 9, going on 10, and soon to be 21, to start up the car, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
have a push button start. She knows put your foot on the brake. And then I will remind her every single time, even though I know she knows, don't touch that shift. Don't touch that gear shift, because the car will do what you're telling it to do and you're not ready to drive.
Mhm.
There are steps and a process. And the reason why I'm even more sincere in reminding her of that is because I was her age, and my sister let me, one of my older sisters let me start their car. And next thing I know, I put it in gear and I rolled back and rolled across the street where my parents lived and hit the neighbor's like a retaining wall. And I remember my mom, my dad, and my sister running out. Shut up. One day I was gonna drive. Today I'm a perfect driver, in spite of what my husband said. I drive perfectly. Okay. One day it was promised to me that I would be able to drive, but it wasn't that day. So there were some things that I needed to do to prepare because I wasn't mature enough. I didn't
Yeah.
have enough wisdom. I didn't have the height. I still may not have the height, but that's another story. I don't have the height to see over the steering wheel, even though one day I was promised to drive. So I think we got to think about those things, of the maturity and the state of readiness that we're in to receive what it is that we see.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your state of readiness? Because when we have that moment, that epiphany, like you mentioned, of asking sincerely, that fearless moment of asking, our request gets through to God.
Hmm.
And the longer we stay unprepared, then we aren't ready. And there was, I don't know, it was last year, I believe, right, Shell? About probably November, I think I was sharing. I just feel this started before that, but I think I started vocalizing it before. I just kept feeling like I needed to be prepared
Hmm.
so that I'm ready.
Yeah.
And so people kept saying, "No, it doesn't sound right. How are you preparing to be ready?" I said, "Well, I don't. I can never tell if I'm ready
Hmm.
because I'm always my biggest critic. But
Hmm.
if I'm preparing myself, doing all of the steps that it takes, you can't skip any in life, right? If
Hmm.
I'm preparing myself, the Lord is going to know when I'm ready, because
Hmm.
my like you mentioned, my mind will govern my steps, and and though we're speaking life, we're also speaking those things that aren't currently as though they were actually taking place. And so then I'm allowed to run these spots in every day of my life, get one step closer to my goal, and one step closer to my goal, and one step closer to the goal. So then the Lord says, "Yep, no, your mind's been right. You've exercised all of those bad thoughts out of the way, and the lack of faith has been handled, it's been eradicated, and now you're
Hmm.
ready for
Yeah.
that blessing." Because but then it arrives at the address. Sometimes it knocks on our door, sometimes it busts the door down, sometimes it blocks our driveway, because so
Hmm.
we can't get around. Because sometimes there'll be a blessing show up in our lives that we'll walk around because we don't even recognize what it was,
Mm.
nor
Mm.
recognize it is what we asked for.
Hmm.
And because the Lord's got a crazy sense of humor, as I say. And you mentioned it earlier. We don't ask big enough,
Hmm.
because when Jesus told the disciples, "Hey, when the disciples actually came and said, 'Hey, no, if the people are hungry, send them boys to eat.'" No, Jesus, you feed them, right?
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
sure the disciples, "What are you talking about? We don't have enough money to go buy food for every people." That's not what Jesus told them to do.
Right.
Jesus just told them to feed the people.
Yeah.
And a little kid who probably thought, who knows what he thought about that lunch? That might have been the only food they had in the house. Hut,
Absolutely.
tent, whatever he lived in. That's all that he had, was these little loaves and these little fish.
Hmm.
Some of us have a loaf and fish vision of our business,
Hmm.
right? Of our
Hmm.
lives. But that one little look for us, which may have been, we used to think about it. The Bible doesn't talk about, and if it does, maybe it's a piece of research that out. And if you're watching this, if the Bible does indicate what type of fish these were, and what type of size loaves of breads these were, please comment on our social, email us, let us know, because that's key right now. Because it doesn't say how big these fish were specifically.
Hmm.
For a little child to eat three fish, or was it three
Two.
fish and four loaves of bread, two fish and three loaves
Two.
of bread,
Five.
and five. Okay, so that could have been a lot for a little kid. Maybe that was to last the kid all day. We don't know how long that meal was for that child, right? But that meal fed over 5,000 men,
Hmm.
right? And their wives and their children. I don't know if the animals ate. I don't know. The Bible didn't specify. But a lot of folks were blessed because they weren't thinking big enough. But at least they thought clear enough to make the ask and were prepared for this ready state.
I'm
And I
sorry,
think
Craig. It was 2 fish and 7 loaves.
7 loaves. And I don't know how big a loaf
I
was.
added them together.
Okay, no worries. I appreciate the clarity because it helps some folk. You know what I'm saying? Because it matters. It
Yeah.
does matter.
Hmm.
Because if we have a 2 fish, 7 loaf dream, and the Lord says, "Great, I'm glad you can see your dream that way."
Hmm.
But you made your plan, but I'm gonna order your
Hmm.
steps. I'm gonna order
Hmm.
that little 2 fish, 7 loaf meal is going to feed so many more people than you could ever imagine. So much so that there's going to be leftovers, 12
Right.
baskets of
Absolutely.
leftovers, you know? And that's what we need to be okay with is
Hmm.
asking, because I don't think we could ever ask big enough because God's going to multiply. Because Jesus thanked the Lord for that meal
Hmm.
and gave that gift of that meal to the Lord. And the Lord took over. And that's what I think is
Yeah.
just amazing.
I agree with you. It made me think about you were at our annual gala, and of course it's annual, so we'll have another one this year. Um, and I talked about the vision for the property,
Mhm.
and I was talking about asking big enough. And so I said, well, I will most likely um, establish another business, a nonprofit business model for the work that we really want to do on that other side of the property.
Sure.
And what we're talking about is an actual center, a healing and wellness center that has the capability for retreat stay. Not a ton of people to stay, but enough to manage a small bed and breakfast type of a thing for those particular events based on the package that they want. And so initially I said, well, you've been to our old house. Initially I
Mhm.
said, well, we probably just need around $60,000, right, to build the actual pavilion or to build the actual space. And
Mhm.
then I started thinking, that's not enough. That's not enough. Why would we ask for the minimum just to get that piece if we know the vision is bigger? Why not ask for, I need 120,000 for this. I need, and this is to build out everything at once. I need, it needs to be furnished. We have to have electricity. So I need at least 500,000. Okay, wait. 500,000. Okay, but then that doesn't leave money for the landscape or the this or that. I need 1 million. Yeah. So it just kept growing and growing the more that I allowed what I had written down.
Mhm.
The more that I allowed what I had drawn out in some stick figures, the more that I envisioned what it was going to be in totality, that caused me to think bigger and be of service. Because what we're doing right now is the 2 loaves and the 5, right? And the 7 loaves, excuse me, the 2 fish and the 7 loaves. That's what
Mhm.
this is right now. Because I'm giving it saying, increase and multiply this. I need your hand, I need your favor, I need your grace, I need your mercy, because I know that this is supposed to be bigger. So now you do the work, right? But I have to
Yeah.
change my mindset that I don't just need what I see right here. It's bigger than that. So how do we continue to do that in our own lives is by literally writing it down, making it plain, rehearsing it, speaking those things that are truth, affirming those things that are true, and
Yeah.
behaving in a way that aligns with that truth.
Yeah. Because it will actually save not just your life,
Hmm.
but it'll save the lives of so many other people that are waiting on the other side of your obedience. Right?
Oh,
You were gonna, you were gonna say something.
I this is thank you for acknowledging that. Let me say this. I was at a conference last weekend, and you guys might have seen the post where somebody came up and was like, "Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I listened to your show." That was a real touching moment for me. I posted it on social. But during that conference, there was a former controller, like CFO, speaker, and she's Christian as well. And she said that this dreaming bigger and saying things bigger, that we're not dreaming big enough, or that we're not thinking or envisioning big enough, to use your word. She said, we're just thinking about us and our children.
Mm,
She
yeah.
said that's not what where the word is. It says that we should be thinking about our grandchildren. We're talking. I used the word. I downloaded it a long time ago. Legacy wealth, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be preparing for the legacy. When we die off, what does my voice sound like to my kids, and then how are they translating that to their kids, and how do they translate that to their kids? I may not see my great grandchildren. I don't know. I'm hoping biologically these kids around here ain't having no. We have Jesus. I don't want to go there. But we need to be
Don't speak
preparing
life into
for.
that right now.
I'm not. Listen, I don't have the right words right now to talk about that, and that's their business, and but we need to be thinking about our grandchildren's children
Yeah,
in terms
because
of what we're supposed to be doing.
yeah, I know the word does speak. The sins of a father span to our children's children's children. So
Mm-hmm.
that's 3 generations, right? So if the sin's going to go that far, the blessing should and will too. So
Listen, should
we need
overtake all of that, right?
should over all true.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
in our doing, we need to be able to do that. And as a young entrepreneur, yeah, I'm 54, but I'm young in the entrepreneur game, right? I've got to be able to show my kids. I don't have anybody in my family that I know of that was a business owner. And if there
Mm-hmm.
are, and those of you who say you know me, say you're related to us that are in this game as entrepreneurs, other than you, Michelle, you're the only other business owner that I'm aware of, right?
Well,
So
Auntie has her Precious Lambs daycare. So shout out to her. She's had that owned and operated for over 20 plus years.
okay, again, but in all fairness, I don't know her.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Got
And
you.
so, and it's no disrespect to her at all.
Yep.
And it's
I
no
understand.
disrespect to, her husband, Robert,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
in all fairness to Robert, he texts me probably at least once a quarter just to
Mm-hmm.
say hello. And he has told me before, hey, I want to try to, he started this when my dad had gotten sick. Before my dad had passed, he started reaching out.
Yeah.
Now, I hadn't heard from Robert until my dad got sick,
Mm-hmm.
2018, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And later died 2019. But it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. I haven't heard from him. The matter up until then, but the matter is that he did, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
the one, the lag, and not connecting with him. So here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing: we did. You just talked about we can delay our own blessing. So here I am wanting
Mm-hmm.
to be an entrepreneur. So
Mm-hmm.
my choice to not connect with Robert
Mm-hmm.
has kept me separated and delayed my knowledge that I would need to at least see another person close to me, can observe a person
Mm-hmm.
who's had a business even for 20 years. I didn't know she was even doing that. I knew she had a daycare, but
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, the
Mm-hmm.
box I put her in was, oh, it must be she must babysit some kids and maybe one or two.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? That's
Mm-mm. And
how,
so, yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yep. I
So
feel you.
we need to stop doing that out of our own fear. And I had told Robert, I said, candidly, I had chosen not to connect with Robert because he looks just like my dad.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I told him, every time I see your face, it reminds me of him and the loss that I was experiencing at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I had some daddy issues where some conversations and interactions with my dad leading into his death they just weren't my favorite. They were
Yeah.
very, though I dreamed of a fairy tale ending of his life as it relates
Mm-hmm.
to our communication, it
Mm-hmm.
didn't happen. I was hurt. So
Yeah.
I really had not been in a headspace to grow that relationship with Robert.
Mm-hmm.
So I've delayed a lot of that interaction. So I wanted to make sure I give a real transparent,
Very
real
transparent. Thank
candid
you for that.
understanding to people. And I'll share one thing else briefly is my finances that were jacked up
Mm-hmm.
for probably the better part of 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
because of a word contract that I made. I
Mm-hmm.
told the Lord before, I said, you know what, Lord, you need to make me in a perpetual state of need and dependence on you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I ever get money and get rich or whatever, I'm gonna lose my doggone mind.
Look at that.
And
Look what you
from
spoke.
see, and from that day to at
Yeah.
least last week, I have
Mm-hmm.
had one or more ones, larger ones and smaller one, issues that have encumbered and cut up my finances because it has kept me in this perpetual state of lack
Mm-hmm.
because of what I said.
Yep.
So life and death is in the power of the tongue. So I spoke life to something that brought death to my finances.
Listen, that's a
So
powerful thing.
just last week,
Mm-hmm.
that comment, that statement was
Mm-hmm.
brought to my memory. I hadn't thought about that, Shelley, in probably, I don't know, 6, 7 years, right? If
Mm-hmm.
not longer. So I had to cancel those words. So I canceled those words in that statement, and then in that intent of that statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I share with you candidly, in that 1 week or less time since me canceling those words, I have had the most deals closed, the most
Mm-hmm.
customers contacting me with actual real life projects that are
Yes.
on their way. And I've probably had at least one, if not two, pay for their projects a
Up
day
front. Mm-hmm.
up front
Mm-hmm.
since that day to this very morning before recording. I told you I just got paid right before we started
Right.
recording from a
Right.
project. And that payment that came this morning was from a customer that we knew from the old country, as we would say, from our old area that we lived in. The lady said, "Can you give me an estimate for some shirts, some hoodies for my son's baseball team?" She wound up bringing me not one contract invoice back, but two
Right. That's amazing.
for just watching your mouth. So
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, if you don't believe that the words that we speak matter,
Mm-hmm.
please rewatch it. If you don't watch nothing else, at least rewatch these last 4 minutes of me giving my testimony.
Mm-hmm.
That for my life, I can show and prove. I got the receipts, as Coach Prime says, as to
Mm-hmm.
if you speak it, it will
Mm-hmm.
come good or come bad, or it will come or go. Your blessing will either come to you or the curse will come to you, and your blessings will either go away because you spoke it,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, or the blessing will come because you spoke it. So I promise you, watch your mouth. It'll
Yeah.
change your life.
Absolutely. Your testimony is a powerful one, and it resonates with me because on this journey to solopreneurship, like complete lack of any corporate entity other than myself, feeding my family, giving, we always say if we don't kill it, it won't die, we
Right.
won't eat kind of a thing. So it's definitely been a journey. And I also wanted to acknowledge the part around your vulnerability around your daddy issues, because it reminded me of something that my brother said in a recent message. My brother's my pastor. And so he was talking about not having the the type of relationship that he envisioned with my dad.
Mhm.
And then when my dad died, our dad died in 2007. um, it took him many, many years to realize, what was being downloaded to him was, he said that the, my dad couldn't be my dad. Yes, he taught me how to fish. Yes, we did, certain things together, daddy son things. He said, but I was looking for my relationship with my dad to be the way that he was with the other men at the church in
Yeah.
his life, where the commonalities just seemed very natural. And he always felt like my dad didn't really understand him as a creative, a musician, and so on and so forth. And he
Sure.
said, but now that I'm a grown man, almost 50 years old, he said, I know that my dad was mentoring me. He was preparing me for the moments that I'm living in right now. So it was almost like he had to fast track the relationship to maturity,
Yeah.
because he didn't know when his last breath was going to be, but he knew he would take a last breath. And the
Sure.
last thing that he wanted was to leave his legacy or his what he had done in the hands of a son that wasn't prepared. And I think that's a hard thing to swallow naturally, as I think about my own relationships with my parents. I had great relationship. I'm the baby, so I was the baby for a long time. So I'm spoiled, and I love it.
Yeah,
And I'm
yes,
ferociously independent as well. But I like to feel loved and have that stability. So my relationship was different. And I tell my mom, and it's not a joke. It's for real. I was like, I know you love Michael more than me. And she's like, why would you say that? I said, you do. You're supposed to love him differently, but I think you love him more because he was you weren't supposed to have children. And I said, you would seem like you would love me double, but that's a whole nother story. If you weren't supposed to have one and you get two, I mean that's double for your trouble. Anyway, that's another segment. But I appreciate what you're saying because for a time, it's like I'm just out here and nobody sees me. That's that merely existing thing until we tap in and we understand who we are, what we were designed to do, and that we're really the ones controlling the delay when
yeah.
we are not moving in that direction, knowing what it is that we're supposed to do.
It's huge. It is really. I'm sitting here looking at our. You said this. If we don't kill it, we don't eat.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, if we don't kill it in life, in our mindset, we don't kill the negative mindset. If we don't kill the fear, then we don't eat the blessings
Yeah.
and the harvest that comes. So when we're out there doing whatever jobs that we may have, whatever businesses we go, if we don't kill it there, if we don't use the urban slang side, if we don't do our best and be the best, in your case, the best coach, the best, best specialist, the best
Yeah.
teacher, the best leader, the best speaker, if I don't do the best designs, the best printer, um, the best musician, the best producer, the best writer, you keep going, all the things that we're best at in our life, we don't do those things, then we're not going to eat the benefit, eat the
Mm-hmm.
harvest that we're supposed to, no matter what our age is. You realize if we teach our kids, Caitlin's age, Jackson's age, and all of our
Mm-hmm.
kids' age,
Mm-hmm.
to do this philosophy here and to live fearless and limitless,
Mm-hmm.
and they get a hold of that thing at their young ages, do you realize they can have 30, maybe 50 or 60 more years of a head start living
Listen.
fearlessly and
Yeah.
limitlessly for God than we may
Yeah.
have had at maybe 2 to 5, 2 to 10 years, 20 years, whatever the Lord gives us? Can you? I know I want more from my family, but
Mm-hmm.
it says I love them. We talked about that just on our last episode. Love them
Mm-hmm.
enough to tell them the truth. And the truth
Yes.
is, if we love God, if we don't kill the fear, kill the negativity, kill that
Mm-hmm.
broken, wrong mindset,
Yes.
we don't eat of the harvest of God that they've been trained up. Because I haven't been the best coach and leader. I've
Mm-hmm.
taught them to be fearful. I've taught them to
Mm-hmm.
be derelict. I've taught them to be
Mm.
wayward in how I've acted, and I've sloughed around and speaking one thing that and doing another, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But now that thing that I spoke is now in existence of being positive after a
Mm-hmm.
tragedy. Because it's easy to be positive and with God and for God when there's nothing wrong.
Right.
But you get in a little trouble. What your dad used to have the song, "Trouble don't last always." If we get to the
Don't
end of the song,
last always. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
because a lot of us will sing that song in church, but we get stuck at the trouble.
Come on.
We don't listen to the next part of the lyrics that said, "Don't last always."
Right. Right.
We just think of trouble. Oh, the guy I got to pay this bill. So and so don't like me, and such and such thing, and we stuck on the trouble.
And we're focused on the wrong thing, and that's why we're not able to get what we're supposed to have because we're
Yeah,
focused on others. We're not focused on what we're supposed to be doing for
yeah.
sure.
No, no.
You were.
It's funny. I'm sorry.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
No. 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 Go ahead. Go ahead.
I, I, the Lord is bringing me an analogy of a sniper,
Mm-hmm.
and I would really love to talk with Stephen and get. I'm sorry, I can't say Stephen. That's your man. It's not Steve.
I
All
know.
right, Steve. I apologize, bro.
I messed y'all up.
I would really love to talk to Steve and have him tell me really what a sniper is all about, because I've heard about it takes a really special person
Mm-hmm.
to be a sniper, to
Mm-hmm.
find a place to hide in. So I'm gonna use this term: hide in Jesus' love, hide in a spot where you can't be seen, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and don't move, but it's a spot up high from a high vantage point to be able to see your target. and you can't move. It's like you can't even really take a bathroom break. You can't blink. You have to stay laser focused on the target, and you make sure that when the target arrives, you're ready for the word. And so you're when the word comes, you have to communicate to your leader, hey, so and so, Sergeant, Master Captain, whoever the leader is, targets in range, targets in sight, and then you have to be able to then have practiced enough and been prepared to be able to take the shot from 20 yards, 50 yards, 100 yards, however far you can or have to take that shot based on the troubles in your life, the wind that's maybe crossing at that moment, or the distance and the follow of the bullet based on my vantage point to be able to hit the target one time.
Right.
You're not going to get a chance to hit him, to shoot more than once, because a normal sniper rifle that I know that can shoot precisely long distance is a one-shot reload. So for me to reload, I have to take my eye off the target to reload and go find it. But if you took the patience of a sniper, found a place in God, dug in, became hidden from the world behind God's love, and just watched what the Lord was going to do. And when he brought that blessing in range, and he said, and we said, Lord, it's in range, I can see it. No, don't fire yet. And he tells us when to shoot, right? When the sniper gets the sight, sniper don't delay. Fire, green light, sniper, boop, gets him in the crosshair, and then he doesn't delay. If we can have faith like a sniper,
what you're talking about too goes back to the listening, right? And one thing I do know about, I don't, you need Steve to have that conversation. And you did a very good job, by the way. And from a tactile, the key players in that chess strategic, environment. But one thing I do know is that snipers in particular have a way to calibrate their mind and their body, control their breathing, which is about being self-aware. It's about knowing that you're in the middle of this battlefield. Let's call it what it is. You're in this battlefield. You're in the battlefield of your mind. You're in the battlefield of your heart. But you have to be able to regulate yourself. No one else is going to go over there and go, okay, now breathe like this and do like this, which means that there's a part of that role that they have identified their purpose, and they are willing to do the conditioning. They're willing to take the steps. They're willing to listen to someone else that has been where they are, or is going where they're going, they've been. There's some self-regulation and there's confidence that once I see it, I am prepared enough to hit that. I'm prepared enough to move. I'm prepared enough to not ask a question, right? Because sometimes it's great to ask questions. I don't want anybody to misconstrue this. It's great to ask questions, but when you already have clarity, why are you asking? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Now you're taking steps back. So now I don't have confidence in you as the person who's prepared you for this, that you're going to do. And that's what I feel like our creator is saying. Like, okay, are you really ready? I've taken you through this step. You're saying you're ready, but you're still not aligning to why is this now a question? Is this my purpose? No, a sniper goes, get the word. And unless there is somebody else that's going to be sometimes they sacrifice other people in the process to get to that place. I'm not suggesting that is what they do all the time, but I've seen those movies where they go, you got to take the shot. This is the only one that you have. So you try to do it in a way where there's not as much casualty after the fact, but sometimes there are relationships or things that we have to be willing to let go to get to that place. When our sights are set and we know that is the purpose.
Because it goes back to what we've been talking about on this episode and the previous ones, where there's some people in our life, the relationship only was that finite. We try to hold on to things with some people because it makes us feel good, just because I don't want the loss.
Yeah.
If we were there was another term, ferociously unapologetic about about following the plan that God has for our life, You realize how clean our lives would be?
Mm,
Because we would be matter of fact. If this is the person I'm supposed to love, I'm gonna love you. And there's what 7 different versions or variations of love. I don't, but every one of them deals with a godly love with everybody. But I don't have to be
mhm.
in a familial, romantic, or even a mutual beneficial relationship with everybody I'm in. And no,
Absolutely.
as
Absolutely.
long as I love you with the love of God, even if I need to sever our time because our season is over, I need to, they say, tell the sniper, send it. I need to send it. I need to do that because God's plan is key. It must be achieved. If we don't do that, the people who we were that plan was created for are waiting. There's some people that need the Knight&Craig show that have been waiting all their life for this, and they can't wait
Mm,
for this episode. They can't keep
mhm.
they can't wait for this piece because somebody needs to know who's in a relationship with somebody who's beaten them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and had a negative relationship, who may have sons and or who may have a situation where their wife died. They need to understand that it's possible not just to merely exist through their life,
Yes.
but they can thrive. They can go on and be a doctor. They can help people. They can raise
Yes.
their sons, raise their daughters. They can love again, get married, and progress. They can have situations where their life just doesn't end with the
Yes.
end of a relationship. And if
Yeah.
we weren't obedient to
Mhm.
posting, to recording, to doing this, those people who have a story, who's waiting on our proof positive that can
Mhm.
do
Mhm.
this,
Mhm.
they may not survive.
Really, that's the crux of my entire message is, there's life, actual living after devastation. And that is it. That these moments that defined us in a moment in time don't have to be the thing that we take into the future, because in truth, if you take those things into the future, you're reliving the past. You're reliving the past if we take everything that, not the experience, not the wisdom from those experiences, but the mindset from those experiences, that it's okay to be beaten, worn, da 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 da, torn, and that, oh, that's my purpose. No, it's not. That's not your purpose. So
Yep.
I think, the next conversation that we have, Craig, I don't remember the title, but I know that I believe, based on where we are right now, it would be prudent for us to talk about longing for the past,
Mm.
that reflection. Remember?
Yep. Yep.
I think
Yep.
that would be a really, really great follow-up conversation about what happens when we do. What are some steps that we need to do in order to get to this place where we're existing in the way that we envision ourselves, versus settling for the things of the past that are wearing us down and making us tired,
Yeah.
and making us weary in the well doing, because
Yeah.
we're focused on the wrong thing.
Well, I'm excited to get to that. And however and whenever we do, if it's next Monday, next Wednesday, for next Friday, this Monday, this Wednesday, I'm here for it. I'm here for all the smoke. If you have a question or comment, you want to be a part of the discussion live, well, as we are live on the recording here on
Yeah,
StreamYard, or
yeah.
if, as we're speaking into this, is soon to be coming from the conference center at Knight Consulting headquarters. Um,
Absolutely.
we want you to email us at nightandcraigshow@gmail.com, and
Mhm.
or hit us up on social. Share with a friend if you're enjoying the conversation. If you're doing reading, watching us or listening to it on Podbean or on YouTube currently, and all the other places as it begins to be distributed, share it with a friend. Tell somebody else about it. Let them know that there's help out there, there's healing
Yeah.
out there from at least these two people who have something that resonated with you, because
Yes.
we're doing it because there was somebody out there that did it for us, and in some cases there wasn't anybody that we could see tangibly. So we're trying to be out here cutting the brush away, trying to make a path so that at some point for somebody else there's a road, a freeway,
Mhm.
a highway coming behind in the future. Faster, better, yeah, but for right now this is where we are. And if you find yourself in the
Absolutely.
wilderness having these weird moments where you feel like you're all alone, then this is definitely a place where I know you can get at least one thing, because Michelle is going to give you two, but I'm sure you can get at least one thing from the program on these 2 and 2 segments, like Chuck Woolery used to say.
Listen, be back in 2 and 2. But
Me
listen,
too.
you had multiple 2 things today, so you're gonna have to find your own.
I know, but why the wheel's still around? I could use it. I could use yours. Shoot.
Love it. I love it. I love this time with you, and I'm so grateful that we get to do something that we actually love and fulfill a portion of our purpose as well. So next time, we'll see you then.
We'll see you. Love y'all. See you next week.
I came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is a sin. Ascend in word, been in verse, birthed in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh. This antithesis a mess, it's the verses so green. So long, you better catch a God throwing blessings. Dreams manifest, did you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with